Greetings, Dr. Joseph Martin. Well, this is my personal story of creativity, courage, and character. And before I get into all the details, enough details of my own personal adversity and many, many challenges, which I'm hoping to share with you. And why do I do this? The reason is I know that every one of you can move through all the challenges and adversity you were either born into or will find your way into in life. And there's great joy and happiness in finding your own path through your own individuation. Well, the four things that are important to remember about finding your way in life are these. First of all, it is a connection or a reconnection to spirit. Secondly, it's to awaken to your own soul and to follow the heart path of your own soul. And thirdly, it would be to heal yourself through realizing yourself and your connection to spirit and all that is. And fourthly, it would be to use your personal imagination and your own spirit connection to make your own way in life and to live the life that you were meant to live and follow all your dreams and hopes and goals. Well, now I know we all have our own story. I'm going to tell you my story now of my birth and my early childhood and all the things, the many things that I've overcome. Now, we're not comparing any stories here. I'm simply telling you this to encourage you to be acknowledging and face all the things that have happened to you and then deal with them with courage, love, strength, decision, and a lot of action in a positive way. Well, here's my story, and I'm going to read it because there's some details that I've just summarized so that you can know the extent of all the things I've had to work through in my own life. Both my parents were alcoholics and smokers, so in the womb I had many toxic challenges as well. They were both from the war. My mother was a Dutch war bride. My father was in the Canadian Army. So both of them had a lot of post-traumatic stress syndrome and the reactivity, a lot of fears and anxieties, a lot of hurts and pains. Many times it came out with anger and rage, and of course a lot of hidden sadness and anger. So here's what happened to me, and it's all in my autobiography here, Living in Two Worlds, A Life of Love by Joseph Martin. Well, early on in my childhood, my mother had postpartum depression, which some of you would know about. And in these states, someone just simply goes somewhat psychotic. She was burning me with cigarettes on my skin and throwing me against the wall and poking me and sticking things into me and trying to suffocate me and so on. All of this I know from all of the hypnotherapeutic healing techniques that I've learned, and I'm grateful I had some people who could do the therapy and healing with me. In any case, I was born with a big physical hole in my heart. It was the size of a Canadian dollar, actually, and it's interesting to say, I guess there's a hole in our Canadian economy these days too, as there might be worldwide, but that's another story in which I will use in that topic in a different video. This hole in my heart was a story that I'll get to in a wee little bit, but it meant that I couldn't do anything. I wasn't able to walk much or move much, and I got therefore into playing the piano when I was 4, and more of that story in a bit. Well, I was severely sexually abused by many members of my family, including my father, my mother, my brother, aunts and uncles, and friends of my father's who were in the army. And this went on from the time when I was a baby till I was about 11 years of age. Physically abused and strapped and hit and punched and bullied by members of my family, mostly my father, and verbal abuse, being called names, and emotional abuse, and psychological abuse, and what I call spiritual abuse. So I've had it all, and I've been able to work through all of this now with the grace and the inner work. As I said, my family was a dysfunctional alcoholic family, so I'm an adult child of an alcoholic set of parents, and if you've been in that situation yourself, you know that you're put in a role to be the parent for your childish parents, and I was put in that role since about the age of 4 or 5 when I was trying to heal and look after and care for in a very dysfunctional, fixing, helping way with my mother, my father, and my brother. So, of course, I had to go into learning all these things in psychology in order to understand myself and my family system and its incredible dysfunctionality. And might I say that all these families on the planet today, including most of the marriages, are in the same dysfunctional patterns. So, my story is actually very likely your story, wherever you are in the world, whatever culture and background you come from. My parents were gamblers. We never had a lot of money. Sometimes we didn't have food to put on the table. We were born into the lower class, so I grew up in poverty, where my income, my only income, was actually from my father till I started working at the age of 7. But it was really not enough to supply our daily needs for food or rent or anything else very much at all. I was the scapegoat, the runt of the family, the black sheep, the baby, if you like. All these dysfunctional roles that parents and older siblings put on one consciously but mostly unconsciously in order to overcome their own felt inferiority and insecurities. Excuse me. So I was a recipient of all these different roles: the black sheep, the scapegoat, the evil one, the dark one, the sad one, the sick one. Of course, I was physically sick. The runt of the family who shouldn't survive, and why are we even trying to keep him alive? Because he may not live anyways, and more of that story in just a minute, why I might not have lived. Apart from the fact that I was suffocated by people in my family and so on, and to the point of almost asphyxiation. And of course, there was all the bullying in school, which started in kindergarten. So, all in all, I've had quite a life and I've enjoyed it immensely. It's been a great series of challenges. Now, what did that leave me with? Oh, I just wanted to say that being a strong gay man now, there was a lot of homophobia in my family and my culture, my society. Back in the time when I was growing up in the mid 20th century, my parents were both homophobic, particularly my father and my brother. And so that was another kind of insecurity and a great fear and dread that was in my heart as a young boy when I was 4 and knew that I was gay. Many of you might have had similar experiences wherever you are in the world, and I must say that you can move through all these great and wonderful challenges. This is a just so story, as I said in the beginning. We're all born into adversity of one kind or another. I just happen to have a heap load of it, and it was all put together in my life. And I think because there was so much adversity, I was bound and determined, or in fact needed to go to learn to heal myself, and later I learned to look into psychology and other healing modalities of all the cultures of the world to find out how I could heal myself in the best way. Well, what did I feel like growing up? Basically, a lot of hidden anger, a lot of rage, of course. Mostly didn't act it out because that wasn't acceptable in a military family. So I acted it in by, feeling really bad about myself and had zero self-worth and no sense of self-confidence or self-esteem at all, really. Not really much more than zero. And other than that, a lot of sadness and grief and cry myself to sleep every single night all through my childhood from the age of about 2 or 3 years on, all the way through until I was probably 11 or 12 or 13. Just crying myself to sleep every night, curled up in a ball in my bed alone. So I felt very, very lonely, very depressed, and hopeless in a sense, a lot of despair, and of course the anxiety that comes that on not knowing whether you're physically going to live through your physical heart illness, and also the uncertainty of growing up in an alcoholic family where there's loud noises and shouting and throwing things and all these things you just want to hide. And I did hide a lot. I went in little cubby holes down in the basement where I felt maybe I could possibly be safe until I was hit and bullied and spanked yet again. Now, underlying all of that, of course, is the fear and the terror and the dread. You don't know what's going to happen to you. You don't know, one, for me, whether I was physically going to live with this heart condition, which I would be fainting all the time. I wasn't able to do any sports of any kind. But more than that, the anxiety, not just physically living, if I was to physically live, what kind of life would I possibly have growing up in a family like this? And of course, the society is similar the way. It's a very fear-mongering society. It's a very anxiety-provoking society. It's a very sort of stale, sterile, boring, totalitarian kind of world out there. And that's just not my personal perception. But now, as an anthropologist, I see that the world actually is like this, and people have a hard time trying to be sane in an insane world because there's so many conflicts and oppositions that never seem to get worked out, whether it's politics or economics or the class society or gender issues, orientation issues, or lying and cheating on one side and trying to be an honest person on the other side. There's so many splits in the outer world, and the part of the healing that I had to come to is to try to and actually come to the point where I could heal all the shadow and the dark side of myself, which I saw in the outer world, and bring that together inside myself to come back to the unity with the spirit, with the light, with the love, and find some path. And the reason I'm sharing all this with you, as you now know, is my goal in my life, the why, the one big why for me, is to make sure that every one of you knows that you can do this. There is hope, there are possibilities, there are methods and techniques for you to heal yourself, and I want to share with you how I was able to heal myself physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. So stay tuned not only for the rest of this video, but in all the other videos that I've done and will yet do in the future. Now, obviously, I was in a panic most of the time. I had panic attacks, anxiety attacks all the time as a child. I was suicidal most of the time, although I never really attempted it. Although I did kind of starve myself and was very thin when I was young. Very lonely all the time. And of course, I'm thinking that I'm speaking to you as you're listening to this because I know for a fact, as a person, as a human being, and as a psychologist and studied worldwide, that loneliness is the greatest issue in mental health, emotional issue for all of us on the planet. We're so lonely. We feel that we don't fit in. We don't know how we're ever going to fit in. It's so hard. We have to fit into somebody else's box or mode of being, which is like a robot or a zombie, and it doesn't fit in. And we don't want to become zombified. We don't want to feel that we're nullified or we're dissed by the society and the people. So no wonder we're all lonely on the planet these days. No, mostly beyond all the fears and terrors and dread and the sadness and loneliness and the anger and so on, mostly I felt shame. Anyone who's been abused, not just sexually abused, physically abused, verbally and emotionally abused, psychologically and spiritually abused, or gender abused, you are going to feel a lot of shame. Now, the good news, of course, I had to learn all this as I did therapy on myself, Jungian analyses, and lots of psychotherapy, body work, breath work, rebirthing, holotropic breath work, and on and on and on. I had to do this in order to try to find the healing and the wholeness within myself. And of course, I did do it in spades. I've spent my entire life healing myself, and I do that every day with the grace of the light and the one spirit, and also my own inner courage and character that I've been able to develop to carry forward every day and just deal with all this shame. Shame is what you feel inside when you think that it's your fault that you've been abused, or it's your fault that you're lonely, or your fault that you've been bullied, or your fault that you feel like a nobody, or you're told that you're a nobody. All these things are shame, and shame is one of the most powerful energies and emotions that are blocked in the physiology of the body, and it's in your unconscious mind and in your conscious mind. And shame must be transmuted and transformed in order for you to have a wholesome, healthy, self-worthy, self-confident life. Shame is the one that you would want to focus on. I have other videos on this. And you need to be open and vulnerable about the fact and authentic about the fact that you do feel the shame. Embarrassment, on the other hand, is something where it's somebody outside of you who has an inferiority sense, maybe a superiority complex or a God complex, and society does this to us to make you feel embarrassed for even existing, for drawing breath, for drawing a paycheck, for living in the house, for, just being. Embarrassment in this shame-based society, politics, economics, the justice system, or perhaps we could call it the injustice system, the family system, the church system, the school system are all shame-based. If you don't match up with enough marks, or your sports, you're not good enough to get on the main team, or anything like this, the whole society runs on competition and violence, in a sense, violence to the soul and to the psyche, because you're embarrassed if you don't fit into their model or their box. My goal in my life has been to get out of that sense of being embarrassed or feeling the shame and running my own life and being in charge of my own life through connection, reconnection with spirit, spiritual, psychological self-realization, knowing what all the healing techniques are that can help me move forward, and using these every day in order to find my health and healing one day at a time, one step at a time, one breath at a time, and going, yahoo, I can do this, and you can too. Now, apart from that, of course, growing up and being a gay man, a young gay boy in a homophobic society, even though it's changed with the laws in Canada and 27 other countries of the world where men can marry men and women can marry women and so on, and there's a much more openness about transgendered and so on, and even bisexuality, because we know from psychology that most men and women are bisexual by nature in any case. That again was another huge kind of challenge for me that I had to keep pushing through, and that's why I've studied so much about homosexuality and being gay and lesbian in all the cultures of the world, ancient and modern, all the First Nations tribes, and in modern societies. And of course, I ended up becoming a sex therapist through my training at the University of Guelph, and I have a lot to say about all of that. Now, to carry on though with my story, because I'm hoping that you're going to find some kind of, wow, he went through that. I've got some challenges of my own. I guess I can work through these challenges. My sharing with you is something that is meant to inspire and to give you courage. Because love is the courage of the heart to do what is right for yourself. Love is the courage of the heart to do what is right for yourself and be authentic, open, and vulnerable. But love is also the courage of the heart to be authentic and open and vulnerable with others that you want to connect with in a healthy, open way. Well, having said all that, yes, I had a really kind of shitty childhood, if you want to put it in those terms. But shit turns to gold when you know the transformational techniques that you can use to find the wholeness. And remember, it's just a story. So we can be subjectively involved in our emotions and our feelings and our adversities and our challenges. And at the same time, and I learned this mostly through therapy and through becoming an anthropologist, you can be objective about your life. It's a just so story. It is the way it is. I need to face it. I need to deal with the reality of what's going on in my world, in my family, in my school, in my society, in my culture, and in the politics and so on. And in that story, I can make a hero out of myself. You'll look at my hero's journey, which is a 2-hour musical kind of pathway to finding the heroine or the hero in your own life. And of course, as many of us say, Joseph Campbell, all of us are on the hero's path, and it's your responsibility to make the hero come alive in your own life. Having said all that, even some of the worst parts of my childhood was when my budgie died. And I cried for weeks after I buried her in the backyard. Actually, it was a hymn. And then my dog ran away. And I never found my dog again. And until my dad told me that he actually had given it away. So that was a great sadness in my life. And again, all these things, when we lose our pets, we lose our friends, life moves on and our friends move away, or we lose our relationships. In my case, my partner, when I was in my 30s, he died of cancer. And so that was yet another challenge I had to deal with. And I've had so many illnesses. I've had Bell's palsy on this side of my face, Bell's palsy on this side of my face. I needed years of electroacupuncture to heal that. I've had shingles. I've had many skin problems that I've had to face. I've had accidents that I had to overcome that caused concussions and on and on and on. I mean, it's been quite a fun, adventuresome life, I can say, in many ways for myself in this life. And I've had to face all my fears one at a time. I've had well over 500 fears. So that's why, as a psychologist, I've become an expert in dealing with the transformation of the energy that's blocked in our psyche, our mind, and our physical body. That is fear, terror, dread, and anxiety. I've become a master of that because I dealt with one fear at a time. I actually had written out 500 fears, and I had to deal with them one at a time to overcome them. And the last and biggest one, of course, as we all know in psychology, is the fear of death. And yes, I have overcome the fear of death. And there's many techniques and methodologies I use on a daily basis, and I've trained many psychologists in training to overcome the fear of death. And when you do that, you truly have self-liberation and self-realization, and you realize that you're an immortal, eternal spirit soul, full of light and full of love and full of hope and courage and character, just ready and waiting, brimming over with joy for the next experience and event, and you're just open to that in your life. And you too, every one of you listening, and many to come, will be able to do all of this fear transmutation in what I've called the fear circle. Now, so my whole life has been an attempt to experience all this, be real about it, be authentic, keep it real, and then find the clinical psychological techniques, both modern. Of course, psychology is only 135 years old in the West, but I looked into all the ancient cross-cultural Eastern, that is the Hindu, the Buddhist, the Zen, the Tibetan, and so on, and all the First Nations techniques. We have psychological, spiritual healing, shamanism, and so on, and all our medicine techniques that we use as First Nations people. And we're all First Nations because we're all native to the earth. I studied them, I researched them, I wrote about them, I became a clinical specialist with them all, I've trained other people with them, I still do that now. These videos are an attempt to share all this with you, and I have some other associates who also do this work with me now here on planet Earth. Now, I needed to work through all my own emotional complexes and issues, and not just the ones that I've mentioned, the emotions of anger, sadness, and fear, but all the emotional complexes, my inferiority, my superiority, my God complex, all my shadow issues of, just wanting to be violent and terrorize other people and return on revengeful way what had been done to me. And of course, as we know very clearly, we all have those shadow impulses. And depending on our belief systems, we're going to act on those belief systems and those impulses for revenge and violence. One sees it on the streets every day, whether it's in Ukraine or Jerusalem or Ottawa or Los Angeles or Addis Ababa or Johannesburg or Beijing. There's violence, and there's attempts by the state to control the violence. And of course, that's a violent thing when the state is trying to control others. Carl Jung, the great psychologist, said the one challenge for us in the coming centuries, particularly this 21st century, is to become a unique, original, innovative individual with your own personal purpose and using your imagination against the state, which is the attempt to nullify and destroy the spirit and the soul and the unique thought patterns of individuals. And I'm just going to leave that one with you because that could end up to be the most important tipping point or turning point in the future of our society. Do we have enough individuals with enough inner courage and strength of heart and purpose in a highly ethical way to do this path of individuation, to make their own self realization, to find their spiritual connection with the one source, to live with that strength every day, and to find their meaning through listening to their spirit, and to then group together as individuals of purpose and passion, like Martin Luther King and Gandhi and Tolstoy, and all the other ones we know, the Dalai Lama, and in South Africa, a recently departed great leader in South Africa, Mandela. Now, you too are such a person. All these people just did their own inner work and ended up fitting into the zeitgeist of the time in which they were living, where other people had the same dream. Martin Luther King had a dream of freedom for his children. I have a dream of freedom for you and your children. And my dream will come to pass because it is our one true collective dream of the better side of humanity and each individual to deal with all this inner garbage and toxicity that we've thrown out to the world, to rape and destroy the world just as we've been raped and destroyed inside ourselves, to heal and unify our psyche and our soul in reconnection with the one spirit of all that is. And you can do this in your own way every day by going through all your adversities and challenges, no matter what they are. No matter you have no money, no matter that you're poor, no matter you don't have your education and knowledge and wisdom comes from your heart, and that's where you can go. The educational system is corrupt and it's banal and it's amnesia, and it makes like little cogs in a wheel. It makes little robots out of people, and it must not continue any longer than the 150 years it's been on the planet. It's a bane, it's a disease, this educational system. True education comes from the heart, from the one spirit, in your own personal imagination. What's missing, the most popular TED Talk in the world right now with 27 million hits by Sir Ken Robinson, is the fact that the educational system no longer supports the living spirit and the imagination and the innovation and the creativity and the art and the music of any student anywhere in any educational system on the planet. That's why imagination is reality. You'll watch my other two videos. And innovation and creativity of the heart and of your own soul, the playfulness of your inner child, all that must be healed and brought to the fore and integrated in your inner and your outer world so that you too can be standing up as a person of change and a person of conscience and a person of creativity and a person of character. Winston Churchill said, "Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." Now, how did I actually do this? I think this is important that I share some of this with you in this video. I have an acronym called SOAR, which stands for the eagle, the spirit, soaring, and me connecting to that spirit, which stands for SOARR. Surrender. The only way that I could move forward as a baby and as a young boy and as a teenager was to surrender to my circumstances and surrender to the grace of spirit and totally reconnect and move into that place in my heart and my consciousness of trust in the one spirit. Many people in this materialistic world, including the educational system, will tell you that spirit does not exist. All that exists is matter. That's bullshit. It's not true. It's a lie. It's like a 1984 Big Brother notion to try to put you down, and you need to rise up and stand up, get up, and stand up for your rights. If there is one love, one heart, one spirit, one mind, one circle, it's up to you to keep the circle strong in your own heart and then keep the circle strong with all your sisters and brothers of like hearts and minds around the world. Through my childhood, as I only could connect with the spiritual masters and the knowledge and wisdom and love that exists in the spirit, as I would go into an inner state of dreaming and visitations and listening and opening. I had many out of the body experiences. I had so many near-death experiences, and now my consciousness is such that, in fact, I'm living in two worlds at the same time, which is my name in Mohawk, Donna Galenkwa. I live in the spirit world and the earth world equally, simultaneously in one consciousness. You can do this too. It's your personal evolutionary path of growth. You need to do this to get through your life in this life, what's going on inside your inner world, what's going on inside and outside the world. To get through this life, you will need to reconnect in the highest and deepest way with your higher self, your highest self, your soul, the awakening to that aliveness in the universe of the one spirit. You will need to do this, and you can do this. It's very easy. Children do it, and I was doing it as a 1 and 2-year-old, and dogs and cats and all animals do it, rabbits and deer and birds. Just live in the one spirit as you were created to be. Now, I want to also say that it was grace that led me here, and it's led us this far. And, obviously we do our own inner work, and be diligent with your shadow work and your emotional work and all the other issues and challenges and adversities you're feeling. But there is grace. There is grace from the spirit world. No matter what belief system you choose, and they're all good, and I'm a universalist. I love all the spiritual masters who founded all the spiritual religions on planet Earth, and I trust them all, and I speak with them, and they speak with me. You can simply just listen to spirit, and your heart will tell you what is true for you. Your heart will tell you what your true soul, dream, and path and goals are. You just need to listen. Don't ask too many questions. You just need to listen. Your heart will know. Trust your first intuition, not the second or third one. That's your ego talking. And ego is the fearful, fearsome, bound, society-led part of your character that you'll have to train and retrain until your ego completely understands that your soul is on the throne of your life, and the ego's role is behind the throne, just being the lackey to get done what your soul wants you to do. Part of the reason why the educational system needs to be dismantled is the fact that you're taught to memorize rote memory things and accept the reigning theories, whether they're theories in physics or chemistry or microbiology or politics or economics or capitalization or commodification of the time. We know that everything changes, including theories in science. And so what we need to do is be trained to question the questions, to question the educational system. It wasn't until I was in my early 20s that I learned to think for myself and to question for myself and ask the questions and find out what the top 3 questions are in the world, which are: who am I? Where did I come from? And why am I here, and where am I going in the future? Who am I? Where did I come from? And I mean this in spiritual and physical terms, and in every way you can answer that. And where am I going, and what am I doing, and why am I here, and how will I proceed? And remember, life is full of choices. The choices we make every day, but the choices you make will determine your path for the future. So you need to ask all the right questions and then determine the best and highest choices for yourself and all other living beings in and around you. Well, now, I want to say that you can follow every dream. Follow every rainbow, your own personal rainbow. And the rainbow flag is a great symbol of where we all need to be, accepting all the colors, all the imaginations, and all the peoples and all the beliefs systems of the world and all the cultures and wonderful variety of ethnicities and gender orientations on this planet Earth. Now I just want to go through a few more things here, and then I'll play the piano for you, because I want to share with you how I actually healed myself through imagination. In my previous 2 videos, Imagination is Reality, I shared with you that fact. But now I'm going to tell you how I did it. As an 8-year-old in my first operation, I've had 3, and they were structural dysfunctions from the moment of being in the uterus and in the womb and at birth. The doctors told me that, and They had just done some heart surgery. This is 1958 in Toronto on a dog, and Dr. Bill Mustard, and it had been sort of successful. And then they tried it on another little girl my age of 8, and she died on the operating table. And I was needing surgery, otherwise I would have transitioned over into the spirit world at that tender age. But I needed it right away because I was fainting and falling all the time and not able to do any exercise or any sports and really not able to attend school very much. The doctors told me I'd have a 20% chance of living. And of course, that was a huge blow to myself, that there was an 80% chance I would die on the operating table, like the previous girl had. Nevertheless, the 253 staff of the Sick Children's Hospital in Toronto on University Avenue, they did proceed October 26, 1958. And I had a near-death experience. It went on for about 32 minutes, apparently, in which I met many spiritual masters, including Jesus and the Buddha, and many of the great archangels, including Michael. And they told me I was supposed to come back and I'd have a great life of resolution and a revolution in terms of my understanding of how healing happens. I said, okay, I trust you guys. And I came back. After the surgery, I got pneumonia. My mother kissed me, and she had had a cold, and I got a cold and almost died and was in a lung chamber for about 3 months. Then the doctors told me that the hole in the heart was so big, as I said, the size of a Canadian silver dollar, they could only put a patch of Teflon on half of it, and I would have to have surgery again in another year to put a Teflon patch on the other half of the hole. Well, I had been through so many challenges with my family and also this surgery and not being physically capable of doing much except playing the piano and reading when I was a child, that I determined that I was going to heal myself. If the doctors couldn't do it, and I thanked them and blessed them for their surgical techniques and their experimental techniques with me and doing the best they could, then I would simply pray and ask for the grace of Spirit, the one Spirit, and ask to be healed. And I would use my own imagination, I would use my own fortitude, my own visualization techniques, and just know that I could do whatever I put my mind to. Well, to keep the story short, when they came to do the surgery, the second one again, about a year later, uh, they found the hole had healed. And I said to myself, I can't tell the doctors what I've done because they're materialistic scientists and they won't believe me. But yes, the hole had healed on its own. Well, that led me into my whole life, that one experience leading up to that, in which I endeavored to find all the healing techniques that I could do to heal myself, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically, of any physical illness. And I would determine to find through research, and of course became a specialist in energy medicine and a medical anthropology, and I became a psychologist and a marriage and family therapist, to find every single ancient and modern and yet to come technique that I could know and use and train and make it simple and easy and practical to use our imagination, our God-given talents, God-given talents, to heal ourselves of anything and everything, to heal all the oppositions and splits, to unify ourselves within ourselves, to make our spirit, mind, and emotions and heart and body one, to keep our circle strong, and do this on a daily basis so that we can grow and evolve. And that is what I've done with my entire life. I know the techniques of imagination, and that's why I say innovation and imagination is reality. It does have effect. And just on a psychological level, it has effect of unifying and bringing you joy and playfulness and childlikeness again, and great capacity to just have an adventure every day. And on a physiological, biochemical level, because yes, I have some training on that as well, I needed to find out how this could affect myself when I had the imagination and the trust to heal myself physically, and I did. There's something called PNI, or psychoneuroimmunology. It's only one of many new medicines, new psychomedicines, psychological medicines, whereby by using our imagination and healing ourselves and trusting spirit and drawing in the chi or the prana from the universe, from the earth, and from the elements, you can do this. It comes through Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine, and we have it in Mohawk. We call it Orenda. And there are many, many techniques that I'm developing scientifically for the Christification, using the cosmic Christ consciousness as an energy field of electromagnetivity to heal any and every illness that comes into my body, so that I don't have to use pharmaceuticals that are toxic to me and any other drugs, including antibiotics. This can be done. I'm a living testament to this. You too can do this with your own training and also some guidance. And you need to find perhaps some teaching modalities and training modalities whereby you can do this for yourself. The biology, the hormones change, the biochemistry changes. We know that the brain is plastic now, that the DNA is plastic, that all this can grow and evolve and change as we all do every day. We're never the same person, even on an atomic level. And all of this is in some previous videos I did on neuroplasticity. You can have a look at those as well. Lots of exciting new science. We're in tipping point times where all of medicine will change, all of healing will change. And in the future, I guarantee you, in 50, 100 years, all healing will be done by yourself using light. I mean the inner light that's hidden in the heart, the Christ, the Buddha, the Muhammad consciousness, peace be upon him, bless his holy name, the one healing light of the higher nature of our true spiritual connection to the source. This is a spirit connection. It's electromagnetic purity, clarity, and evolutionary kind of energy. All medicine will be this, not just because the medicine we have now is only a stepping point, but it's too expensive and it doesn't work. It's too toxic. It's too killing for the spirit, the mind, and the body. All of this can be done, and so it's exciting that you'll be joining me in the forefront of this endeavor by working on and with yourself. Now, I also would like to say that awakening to soul is the real key. Awakening to that soul that's hidden inside your heart and listening to that part of yourself and following that part, not just what society dictates or what your ego dictates. So some rebirthing to get the ego transmuted and transformed into your soul awareness is what's important. It's the one thing that'll help you get out of what we call so-called the matrix of society, the banality, the totalitarian fascist regime of the nullification of the human being, or the objectification of the human being, where it doesn't matter if you murder or kill them or destroy them or toxify them. We need to become true human beings and stop being treated like human doings that are just garbage to be thrown on the heap of history. Now, you will have further challenges, but I know that you will be able to get through this. My main point, I believe, is in not only the fact that I have been able to heal myself of any and all challenges I've had, whether they were physical health challenges, mental, suicidal, depressive challenges, emotional challenges, mostly, as I've said, with the shame and the guilt and the anxiety and the low self-worth and the fear and the terror and the sadness and loneliness, and also the angers and the need for revenge. But also just the ability, the courage that will build in your character as you live from your heart, and your mind and your body come and joined in the middle in your heart. Your mind and your body from below, your lower nature, your animal instinctual nature, all the sexual drives and so on. Yes, that's important, but you can move that up to the heart, whereby you can learn to connect to yourself in a deeply soulful, encouraging, compassionate, kind, respectful way with yourself, and then be living that with all those other people around you, to connect with them in a very respectful, kind way, where you see them as a living person, in fact, as part of yourself, because we're all just mirrors of ourselves. Well, I just wanted to see if there's anything else I wanted to share in this powerful video. I would say that, learning to trust your intuition was a key for me. And we all have the capacity for that, as well as for the capacity for deep, vulnerable, emotional feeling states, expressing, communicating that verbally and non-verbally. Develop that intuition and follow your heart and your intuition at all times. Develop that sense of play and joyfulness, and let those inner children be healed completely and come back to the place where life can be a joy and a playfulness every day. And that's what living and life and the living is really meant to be. So I'd say that my great why I live, why I'm still here, is to share with you my story, my personal story. And I know you'll be listening as I share more of my personal story in the future, to let you know that my why is so that every one of us can find that healing, that courage, that creativity, that imagination, and building our character, whereby we can live through and overcome and make sense of all our adversities and challenges, and make a joyful, playful adventure out of it, so that love becomes the key. Love is the most powerful force. It's greater than any fear or hatred or jealousy or anger or anything else that's trying to kill our soul or our spirit. That love is indomitable. It's the greatest spirit-given power of the entire universe. The universe is awakened to love, and every time you open to love, you are reawakening the whole universe, and it's feeling it in the most distant stars and galaxies, as well as every soul of every human and animal and plant around this planet, past, present, and future. That love is the greatest power, and love is who you are. Love is your only name. Love is your greatest name, and love is your truest name. It is the beingness of a human being made in the image of the one spirit of love and the true light. And that spark of light that you are, just let it show, let it grow, let it guide you. That great light that's inside, take the bushel off and open your heart and let it show. And all the rainbow colors, the violet healing colors, and the pink healing colors, and all the colors of the diamond white light inside you. That's your true nature, that's your spirit. Whether you're in this body or into the next afterlife stage or in a next life after that, wherever that may be, that light will guide you forward and lead you to your truth, your freedom, your love, your joy, your play, your bliss, and your goals and dreams. Hope, above all, hope is the one thing that the love is also made of. And hope, no matter if you don't even feel like you're hopeful at this moment, just say hope above all. Om Namah Shivaya from Dr. Joseph Martin. I am going to play the piano for you now. And this is my special little gift to you in sharing with you my imagination, my creativity has blossomed because I was able to go into myself. No longer do I play what the world wanted me to play, which is all the things that I had to learn when I got my classical piano. In terms of, I love playing Bach and Beethoven and Brahms and Rimsky-Korsakov and mostly Rachmaninoff and Respighi and all the others and Vaughan Williams. But now, and I'm encouraging you to use your inspiration, I just play whatever is in my heart to play. And the same with you as an artist. I want to say that, as a visionary, you will have visions of your future and your dreams for your future. You will have visions of new ways of science and healing. Let them come forward. This is the true imagination from the one spirit. For me, art was something like painting and drawing I always loved, as well as writing. Well, my life circumstance turned out to be such that I got hired to teach art, experimental art, the Ontario College of Art and Design through the 1980s and 1990s. And then eventually I left there because of politics and jealousy of other teachers there. And the students were saying, these are the best courses we've ever taken in art. because I was sharing with them how to use their own imagination, not just do what other people said to draw like this or paint like this. And when you were in public school, someone said, "Oh, that's a tree." And here's a great story I heard the other day. One teacher was overheard saying to a 7-year-old girl in grade 2, "What are you drawing?" And the little girl said, "I'm drawing God." And the teacher said, "Nobody knows what God looks like." And the little girl said, "Well, they will after I finish. I'm going to play a piece for you." And I did have my own art college and I had many students. It's all about allowing people to be themselves and discover through imagination their own reality. Dr. Martin here, Joseph Martin. You just call me Joseph. I trust that this has been useful and inspirational for you infinitely, and share this with your friends. Make sure you become a true human being of love. That is your truest nature. No matter what you're experiencing now, you can and will change it with all the love in your heart and the courage in your heart, and build that character. Be the true love and light you are. And I look forward to hearing from you. All love and blessings. Om Namah Shivaya. Enjoy this blessed life you've been given to the max. All my love to you.